Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm very excited to have Philippe Bartu with me today. Philippe is a recovering people-pleasing hotelier who became a stressed-out restaurant owner and a survivor of severe burnout in 2008. Today, he lives in Europe with his wife, Christina, where he enjoys long walks in nature, cooking sexy and healthy vegan food, and a drama-free relationship. Well, most of the time. He loves having insightful conversations where a change of heart, a new perspective, or a fresh thought can ground us back into seeing that we are always okay and perfect. Hi, Philippe. I'm thrilled to have you here. I'm very excited for this conversation.
Oh, me too. Thanks for having me down.
Well, just to preface this a little bit, you and I are going to be talking very soon at Viva, which starts this coming Friday. So there are still tickets available if you want to check them out at viva.com. But we have this fascinating title, which you came up with, which I'm dying to delve in here with you, which is Help, I'm behaving badly in my relationship, now what? So I would love to know what inspired you, what led you to coming up with that topic, and what it is that spoke to you about it.
Well, I can't remember the original name of the topic that was given to us, but basically that week, it felt like every single conversation could be pretty much boiled down to that thing, to help. I behave badly in my relationship. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
And that just made me realize, gosh, how many times have I behaved badly in my relationships and thought, now what? And so I thought I'd open up with a bit of a story, which I think is really sort of relevant to the topic. And so is it cool if I just jump
yes,
right in with
please.
that? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I love stories.
So there was so in August this year,
Mm-hmm.
I started noticing that things with my wife were sometimes getting a little edgy around always sort of the same topic around health. And I remember I had just been on a holiday with my aunt and some family, and I was kind of sharing some of the concerns I was having about my wife, who I felt was obsessing a little too much about sort of healthy eating and healthy habits and stuff. And I remember her saying to me, you know what? I think she has orthorexia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. And so I didn't really know what that was. And I looked it up and I saw like basically everything I saw there was about her being compulsive and obsessive about food. And I thought, well, yeah, that's absolutely true. And she says, well, you know what? You need to sit down with her and tell her, for her to realize, because for her to overcome that problem, she has to first realize she has a problem. And then every single time that you notice a sort of compulsive behavior, you need to tell her. So I was like, right, yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. So I come back home, and every time I'm noticing that she's like compulsively reading the nutritional labels of what we're buying in a supermarket, boom, I start to point that out to her, that something's wrong with her, that she's and over and over as I did this, and as I noticed that there was so much tension going on. And even if I try to do it in a light and fun way, there was like this underlining tension, which just was building up and building up and building up. And every time she wanted to buy some sort of food supplements or order another book about gut health, I don't know, her fifth book about gut health, I started to um, yeah, to just question her and say, why, like, do you really need this? And it was like a fake curious way, like, do you really need this? But I was really actually being like super judgmental, like, you definitely don't need this. What the hell are you doing? And and at some point it occurred to me that I was just being really judgmental, and I wasn't curious, and I wasn't open, and I was behaving really badly, to the point that I was almost bullying her every time she was just trying to make good food choices. And so I sat down with her and I said, listen, I need to talk to you about this orthorexia thing, because I'm really concerned. And so we went through, and there were like 5 points that I wanted to prove to her why she was orthorexia and why she had this, and why I was right. And we kind of went through them. And she's like, yeah, no, no, not really. And I was like, oh my God, she's in total denial. So,
Oh,
and so at this point, it only got like, there was one point that we agreed on, which basically is, it's kind of like you look down on people that make bad food choices. I was like, yeah, that's totally you. And look, I love my wife, and I really I say this with now with a lot of humor, but I tell you, at the time it really looked like this was a big deal. And what happened is, when I got to see that, how unhelpful it was to see her through the label of orthorexia,
yeah.
just had a change. Like I had this insight, and I was just remember sitting there just looking at her so lovingly and thinking, what if she just wants to be healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what if she just wants to make good and healthy food choices? And so I just got curious, and I actually got interested in, why does she want to buy turmeric extract? You know, like, why? And I started learning a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually, the more I was curious, the more I was learning, the more I was interested in juicing, which was really kind of things she'd be doing every day. And for as long as I can remember, Dell, she's been telling me, let's do a juice detox, which scared the hell out of me at the idea of just juicing and just drinking juice all day. Um, but even that all of a sudden looked appealing to me. And the more I was interested in her, the more someone from the outside would look at me and say, I think this guy's maybe going a little orthorexic.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
But
And
it's sorry, you carry
no,
on.
no, 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 go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's so brilliant that you saw it, and it reminds me of how, I mean, your intention was good, but I remember Linda Pransky always says it's like unsolicited advice is basically saying my wisdom is better than your wisdom. you know
Right,
and,
right.
and who are we to think that our wisdom is better for somebody else? They have their own wisdom. She was just following what was right for her, and thank God it was a healthy habit rather than an unhealthy habit. But I think that's so funny. So you consider that as behaving badly, is that
So my bad behavior
yeah.
towards her was, I was like challenging her, I was bullying her. You know, I was not very proud of some of the way I was behaving, and also uninterested in her, uninterested in, and actually her whole life and profession is about health coaching and helping people to switch from in to make better healthier food choices. And gosh, when that changed, it was life changing for me, because what happened is we then went on a 21-day juice fast together, which completely transformed my relationship with food. I think the thing I'm proudest about is I stopped drinking coffee for 21 days. But what struck me the most is, after that, I gave up all dairy products. and I love cheese. Like I love cheese. I stopped eating all dairy, and I haven't eaten. I've taken dairy out of my diet completely.
Mm-hmm.
And every single day, I have been exercising and just going for jogs and long walks, and not because I'm disciplined, not because I'm forcing myself out, because I've discovered in me a joy of listening to my body in a way that I wasn't able to before. And that opened up a whole new way of loving my wife even more deeply and loving my life even more deeply and just feeling just so grateful that I was able to switch and listen to her and actually understand her and really like I'd say we've really always had this very beautiful, easy relationship, but now having that piece that was always kind of that sticky piece that every time it just kept on coming up and up and up, like having that gone away and seeing how easy that is, boy, wow. I just wanted to share that story because I just felt like it was such a gift to have gone through something like that.
Yeah, I love what you're pointing to. And, this goes for, in my life, I see this with my children more. I have young adult children, 23 and 27. And it's the same thing. We want what's best, or rather what we think is best for them. Or if there's
Yeah.
something we see that is concerning to us, it's the, again, reminding ourselves they have their own resilience, they have their own wisdom, they don't need our advice. And just that respect, I think, is what makes a relationship so healthy. I certainly see it with my children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to ask you, Del, when you saw the title,
Yeah,
Help, I Behaved Badly in My Relationship, Now What? So
yeah.
what came up for you?
Well, the one thing is, a couple of things came up for me. One is that from my perspective, I try not to use the word good or bad.
Hmm.
I personally feel that we are all doing the best we can with our level of consciousness and our thinking in the moment. I don't think anybody intentionally gets up in the morning and says, I want to wreak havoc here and be
Yeah.
bad. I don't want to hurt people. But we do look back on maybe events and things in our life and think, God, I wish I could do that over. I would have, for what I see now, I could have done better. But
Yeah.
I often say to my clients when they have regret and things like that, that, we can't, I mean, the past is gone. It's not here anymore. There's no, I think to learn from things is wonderful, but the more we can stay in the present moment and not go either into the past or the future and be present is what comes up for me. And I think that judging is happening in the personal mind. And the second thing that came up for me, and this is what I'm going to throw it back to you in a minute, is if we are, I like to use the word assessing rather than judging, but if we
Hmm.
are assessing behavior in a relationship, there is such a difference of what can be considered as bad behavior from all the way over to what you were just describing, which I see as a very innocent concern for your wife, which is beautiful. It's just a slight misunderstanding, but I certainly wouldn't categorize that as bad behavior. To, out and out abusive behavior, whether it's through lying, cheating, physically abusing, mentally, spiritually abusing, that there's a huge
Yeah.
contingent over there. So that's what came up for me. So yeah. So what was it that you were seeing from your clients that had you want to sort of look in this direction
Mm.
more, to talk about this more?
I think what struck me most is how this was going on for me every single day for such a long time. And I was really blind to it. And I was blind to how much judgment I was bringing into the conversation. And I think that's really also, I like the way you say, my wisdom is better than your wisdom. Something about, no, no, no. you have a problem, and when it looks like that, and it often in relationships it looks like, well, if only she could behave differently, well, then I would be okay. And whenever that happens, it's wow, it's a wonderful opportunity to just like pull the red flag up and be like, all right, um, let's look at what's going on here. Is that really true? And just question it, and to see beneath the judgment. And if when I'm willing to do that, and when my clients are willing to do that, there's never been a time where they haven't, well, where it hasn't been true that what they're feeling is a projection, and that it's not necessary for them to change, for their behavior to change in order for them to feel okay. And it also allows us to have differences in the way we behave, and to get curious about the differences rather than trying to change each other in a often like manipulative way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's an appreciation for that. And that's what I've noticed, and that's what I wanted. That's what I felt would be beautiful to explore both today and in Viva, to explore this the differences in like how can we think and behave differently, yet still get along, yet still be in a relationship.
Yeah, what comes up for me as you're sharing that is one of the most life-changing things about the three principles understanding for me was really respecting, separate realities.
Mm-hmm.
That where I used to, think that there was a reality that was out there that my
Yeah.
partner and I were looking at, and if you had
Yeah.
a different reaction to that out there, then
Yeah.
there was something wrong. And I'm talking about extreme behaviors,
Yeah.
but once I really got to see that, oh no, we're all living in this thought
Yeah.
created bubble, and we're just sort of bumping up against just it takes everybody off the hook. I don't feel the need I've got to be seen and heard and understood, and I also don't need to really understand what my partner is. There's just a mutual respect of, oh, they see it differently, that's okay.
Oh, it's so important what you're saying, because it completely takes the conversation away, trying the need to understand each other.
Yeah.
And you cannot imagine the amount of hours and hours and hours, especially in my past relationship, it was important. No, you need to understand my point. It's like I wasn't seeing that my point, no matter how well I explain it, can never be understood fully in the way I see it.
Yeah.
And so I also didn't understand that no matter how well someone explained me their point, I couldn't put myself in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I could have a better idea, but at the moment I think, oh, I know what it's like to be in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
then I am in dangerous territory, because then I'm judging how they're responding based on the fact that I think I know what's going on in their inner world, because I think I'm able to be in their shoes. And when I do that, I'm judging their behavior based on
Yeah.
what I'm seeing, not what they're seeing, without even realizing. And isn't that such a subtle difference? And being able to see that just meant by the conversation goes from, you need to understand me, to just like, yeah, this conversation feels a little stuck. Let's just leave it here.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
that's it.
I love that. It is
Yeah.
so, um, I remember talking about behaving badly. In one of my past relationships, I was with somebody that liked to cheat a lot. And I would take that very
Me
personally.
too.
Okay. And I would spend all this time trying to understand how they could do this so
Yeah.
blatantly and so disrespectfully or whatever it was. And I would torture myself. It was like, it must be something about me. I'm not good enough. There's some, and I spent so much time trying to figure out. And once I got separate realities, it was like, oh, I can drop that one because I
Yeah.
don't know what they were thinking that had them think that that was an appropriate course of action to take. But I'm not going
Yeah.
to waste my time trying to figure it out anymore. I just get that they were, you know, thinking a certain way, which felt a certain way, which made them behave in a certain way. And that's all I need to know. And then
Yeah.
let
And when, you know, what I'm hearing is when you realize that you don't need to know and you need to understand, you tend not to stick around much longer.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like you can see it for what it is. Oh, this is the this behavior doesn't fit into the relationship that I want to create or I want to have. And it's a lot easier to just move away from it or be able to address it in a much more um, without the drama.
Yeah.
It just takes the drama away. And it's just like, all right, well, there's an ordinariness in the way we are able to respond to the situation.
Yeah. Well, the problem with is I'd already left the relationship and I was still carrying it around with me. So I was
Oh,
still
okay.
trying to work it out, even when I wasn't there,
Yeah.
that it was occupying space in my head. And that's what I'm saying. It's so,
Hmm.
boy, I just remember the moment where I just sat that down when it really sunk in that separate realities. It was like, I'm done. I'm done. You know, what's the expression? Giving up free real
Yeah.
estate in my head, trying to
Yeah.
get my head around this. There's just nothing to keep seeing and looking in that direction. But I want to. So you said that you had a lot of clients coming to you that had
Yes.
this feeling. So my
Yeah.
question to you is, when people do have regret and they do have this feeling of, remorse or whatever it is for feeling badly, how do you help them move through that?
Well, the capacity to behave badly is within each and every one of us. In the same way, the capacity to behave lovingly and kindly, full of wisdom, is within each and every one of us. And being able to discern between the two and the speed of discernment, the speed to be able to call ourselves out and come back is really a superpower in relationships. And that superpower happens through the awareness of, wow, being in your well-being. And what I mean by that is, like, when you behave badly, what an amazing opportunity to recover. There's always an amazing opportunity to recover. And I think sometimes when there is shame and guilt, that gets in the way of being able to apologize or recover or having the humility to pick up the phone and say, I'm sorry. I I notice I behaved really poorly and I want to apologize or whatever it is you want to say. But it's very hard to do that when you're full of guilt and shame. And so it's just to be, when you see that there's I'm going to use the word innocence because it's also the place I was in. I saw that for myself, like it was sort of out of love and how I was behaving. There was innocence in that, and being able to see the innocence in myself, I can see it in my clients, and they can then see that for themselves. And it's almost like, oh, they just relax and they don't feel so bad about what happened, and they see a possibility to do better and to recover. And the possibility to recover is exciting.
Yeah, but for me, it's just, as you said, the word innocent. I mean, I think that was one of my favorite um,
Mm-hmm.
first words I I sort of that really got me interested in looking in this direction, because I think I'd had so much shame and so much judgment about myself for so many years, that when I could actually go, that there was an innocence to it. When you see that word innocent, there's an opening. There's an opening.
Yeah.
There's nothing to defend anymore. And I also think that completely and utterly embracing the totality of who we are, obviously the spiritual and the human aspects of ourselves, but knowing that, humans do things. It's just what we do. we fall asleep, we get caught up, we behave badly, but when we embrace all of that and just not try and sort of judge it, or I used to be a shadow coach, which is really about it's amazing. I mean, it's very similar to the principles in the way it's just embracing the totality of all the different aspects of what it means to be human. Because once we do that, we're generous with ourselves, but we're generous with other people too. Once we just,
so true.
It really is. And I love what you're saying. It's like letting your clients know that, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Been there, done that. And for all of us, I used to do, I was at a place called USM. We did spiritual psychology, masters in spiritual psychology. And they used to say, within everybody, there's a Hitler and a Mother Teresa. We have the capacity to be that extreme and everything in between.
Yeah.
As you said, we all have that within us.
Yeah. And as you say that, one thing I remember hearing is, I feel like I'm a failure and I failed in my relationship when I behave in a way that I'm not proud of. Gosh, imagine every time I behaved and I thought I was a failure and my relationship was a failure and my life is a failure. There's just, I just have a lot more compassion for failure, and I give myself a lot more slack for it. But also when I don't see it as failure and I just see it as, oh, I got caught up in fearful thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, I made a story about you having some sort of eating disorder that I got really afraid about. And that story looked really real to me. And well, it did. I was out of touch of wisdom, and all I could do was judge you. It's not even an apology. It's a description of what happens. And if I offended you, I'm sorry. Like there's the almost like, it's not like I'm apologizing to save the relationship. Like it's like you hear these people that are like, oh my God, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again. Well, no, it will.
Yeah.
And if it does, that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to strive for a failure-free way of behaving in your relationship. And the more we can be flexible with our mess ups, the quicker we recover. And I think in the end, like that's perhaps the most important thing, is from the moment of bad behavior to the moment of recovery. How much time? Because for me, that could have been weeks before. And what I'm seeing through the understanding of the principles, the biggest difference I'm seeing in my life is that time span shrinking almost to being able to catch myself out in real time.
Yeah.
Except for this one thing, which lasted for like over a month. And so I was really, that was really invisible to me. And I would even say it lasted kind of on and off for 6 months, but the last month it was really, really, but look at the opportunity, in what came through that. And so there's that just makes me feel really, really hopeful, because it's whenever we feel hurt by our partner, it's an amazing way for us to create even a deeper, richer connection. Absolutely. And at the same time, it's an amazing way to create massive, destruction and disconnection in our relationship. And it really comes down to just your ability to notice what's really creating your experience, and being able to discern that.
To really tune into, are my actions motivated by fear, or is it truly, I mean, for me it feels very much like it can only exist within the personal mind. I mean, clearly it's like when we're coming to the essence of who we are, there is no fear. It's everything, we're just pure love. Sometimes that thinking can be so sneaky. And as you say, you were coming from an innocent place of concern, but it was fear-based. And then
it was. But
sorry, I was going to say, we're actually unfortunately coming to the end of our time. It was so fast. I could sit and talk to you about this for hours. So I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to continue to listen to Philippe and I have this conversation, please join us for Viva. And it's been really wonderful talking to you. Do you have anything you just want to sort of wrap it up with that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Now I think I have to say something really wise and profound. And
you have to talk yourself.
I just want to say, hey, thanks for hanging out with us, and thank you for listening. That's all.
Beautiful. And just for those that are listening to it on the podcast, if you can just give your website so people know how to contact you. I know you do beautiful work, either one-on-one or your retreats. So please share that.
My website is philippebartu.com. And a lot of the work I do is around relationships, and a lot of it is also just around really the relationship with yourself and being able to fall more deeply in love with life. And I feel like there's one thing that has been recurring for me. It's just a deeper satisfaction with life, no matter what is getting thrown at me, and especially now where a lot of things are going in a way that is not it's not like I had planned or hoped for, but I feel like a sense of grace and just a deeper satisfaction. Yeah.
I love that. And I think you hit on the absolute, you did say something profound, which is really is ultimately, it's the relationship we have with ourselves is how we are with others. The kinder, more gentle and compassionate we are with ourselves, that's how we show up with others, I find.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I look forward to seeing you in a few days and doing this again. So in the meantime, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh, thanks, Del.
Okay.
Take care for now. Bye-bye. See you soon.
And you too. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you're interested in learning more about my coaching and mentoring packages, please reach out to me at Adey-Jones@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you.